another episode of Technical Explanation. Hopefully you've noticed we've been putting out some more episodes. The wrestling season, folk style's over. It is locking hands season and Greco season right now. So I don't do much of that at all. So I get to catch up and do way more interviews than I'm able to during the season. And today I have Michael McSorley with me. Michael, how you doing today?
Hey, how we doing? Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, how are things, man? So you're a football and a wrestling official. So you've from August until early March, mid-March, you've been really busy. You did the state tournament, right, for wrestling. And did you do football too?
I did the state finals in football and I did the state tournament in wrestling.
All right. So if you're not paying attention yet, in the first less than 2 minutes here, we've got a guy that's done the state wrestling tournament in Ohio and football, both pretty much the sports we're known for in Ohio. So I'm excited to hear how that happens, like all the work that went into that. So first of all, though, can you tell the people listening or watching, where are you about in Ohio? What association are you from? That sort of stuff.
I live in Monroe, which is about dead center between Cincinnati and Dayton. I am a member of the Greater Cincinnati Wrestling Officials Association. Past president, board member, try to do my time. Great location to live, to be an official, because I can get all those Dayton schools, I can get all those Cincinnati schools and everybody in between.
Yeah. And even like Columbus, for doing this, at least the state wrestling tournament, that's what, an hour for you, or maybe a little bit more?
Yeah, about an hour and a half. A little bit better than the old trip to Canton for the football finals.
Yeah. At Canton, they used to play at Massillon, didn't they? Or it's one of the divisions did. I've only been to one state finals game. The school I went to, it was 1990, so I was really young. But I remember that was the coolest thing ever, being in Canton, being around the Pro Football Hall of Fame. There's a lot of cool stuff they used to do there. But now, is that everything in Columbus now for football?
For football, everything's in Canton. All seven divisions.
Okay.
Sorry.
Holy smokes.
All seven divisions are played at the Hall of Fame Stadium. And a big reason is that now they've completely revamped it. I actually played a game there when I went to Thomas More College just for a year to play. I played football, and I actually played on that field when we went up to play against Malone College. And it was so much different when we went up there to officiate, because the entire stadium, it's an NFL stadium now. It's literally an NFL stadium. There's multiple locker rooms. That way the next two teams can get prepared for their next game. That was the big reason why they had separate locations. Some played at Massillon, some played in Canton, was because they didn't have enough locker room space, or so I've been told anyway. And they the field is beautiful. The stadium's amazing. And now all 7 games are played at the Hall of Fame Stadium, starting with the Thursday night Division II game, and then 3 on Saturday, 1 on Thursday night, 3 on Friday, 3 on Saturday.
Wow. And we were just talking about, it's been a long season for you. Football's long in Ohio, and wrestling's, we're one of the longest states too. So you can fairly say, if you've done football and then you did playoffs, let alone the state finals, then you did the whole wrestling season and the last tournament of the year, you can't get any longer than that, really.
So no, our crew, we usually do 2 scrimmages for football. And so you got 2 scrimmages, then you have 10 weeks of regular season. And then if you get the state finals, you have 6 more weeks of playoffs. So I worked 18 weeks of football. Side note, it was kind of fun emailing the athletic director from Monroe High School saying, hey, I need out of my contract for week 1 of the wrestling season because I'll be in Canton reffing the football finals. Yeah. Not gonna lie, it was kind of fun. I never ever want to try to get out of a wrestling match, but if I need a good excuse, that was fun. And obviously he let me out of my match. So, but yeah, I worked right into wrestling, and then week 2, I was doing a 2-day tournament, and I got a week break around Christmas, and then it was at least every Saturday throughout the state tournament.
So sorry, I'm taking notes because I want to circle back to that, but I don't want to get too ahead of us. So normally on this show, I ask the guests, what's your wrestling story? Why did you choose to officiate? So I think what I'm just going to ask you is tell me about when you got into organized sports and, why did you eventually choose to officiate wrestling and football? And obviously you're at a high level. So where did that start? How did it get to where you're at now?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I actually grew up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Hold on. Really? You're from Wisconsin?
Go Packers. Yep,
Okay.
you got it.
Yeah. I lived in Wisconsin for 7 years. I was in Oshkosh. So
okay. Yeah, very good.
was right there. So, all right, cool. Go ahead.
Yep. No, I grew up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So be the biggest Packer fan you'll ever meet. Had a brief stint living in Battle Creek, Michigan, and then moved to Trenton, Ohio when I was 12. Sports, just growing up, I remember Don Mikowski barely. I'm 37, so I barely remember Don Mikowski, and I was so mad when this guy named Brett Favre took over because he was like my first favorite player. Football has always been my first love, and partially because I was late to the wrestling game. Believe it or not, basketball was like one of my favorite sports. My dad, he's a basketball guy. Granted, he's 6 foot, I'm 5'7", so throwing that out there. But mom's 5'2". Thanks, Mom. Love you. But growing up, I grew up in the 90s and watching Jordan. I love spent so much time out in the driveway playing basketball. So other than my fourth grade teacher, Mr. John Koski, who I'm sure is listening, probably not, but he said, man, he told my dad, this guy should be a wrestler. And it just kind of, that I was just stuck in the back of our mind. So that was the first thought of wrestling in my mind. But then one of the coolest recruitment tools for wrestling, I went to Edgewood High School, Trenton, Edgewood. And when I moved to Trenton, it was in 6th grade. In 7th grade gym class in the fall, around the football season, during football season, they had wrestling. And the gym teacher taught us some basic moves, and we had wrestling in gym class. And they had 3 weight classes: squirrel, cougar, and bear. And I won my weight class. And
I wonder why they don't use that at tournaments more often. Square cougar,
right? Everybody'd have full lineups. But I had fun. It was cool, but I was a basketball player, and they're all trying to, you got natural talent. Flash forward to basketball tryouts. I was a good athlete. I thought I did really well. I got cut in the first cuts, and I was so disappointed. I mean, I cried my eyes out. But it's okay. I guess I'll go out for the wrestling team. And that's literally how I started. I just said, all right, I'll go out and I'll just try this wrestling thing. And I went 17-3 my first year, just not knowing I was just out muscling people pretty much.
As a freshman then?
No, that's in 7th grade.
Okay, so 7th grade. So so they made cuts then. So I go to a small school. How big was Trenton?
When I was in high school, we were D2 for football and wrestling.
Gotcha.
Edgewood is currently D1 in wrestling now.
Okay. They're bigger, but that's one of the biggest things is like at junior high for a lot of programs, they can't get kids because they just let everyone play basketball and they don't make cuts. So you don't play, but you're on the team. Then you get all the way to high school, then they make cuts. And it's like, what do I do now? And going out as a wrestler in 7th grade, I'd imagine is really tough when a lot of people are starting really young. But imagine going as a freshman, right? Like you didn't even get any formative years, so that's
absolutely
impressive, man. So sorry, keep going on. So 7th grade.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Yeah. And I went, believe it or not, I was hooked. It was a blast. And I started doing freestyle and Greco that year. I went just right into it. Yeah. I went right into freestyle and Greco. And I mean, then right into the next season, 8th grade, and had an awesome year. It's like I was hooked. I just kept on going.
What do you think it was? Like, what was the thing that you enjoyed the most about it?
I'm a competitor, and I was winning, and I like to win. That's honestly a big part of it. I hate losing more than anything. I was doing a lot of winning, and believe it or not, it was also really helping me in football. I mean, there's so many kids say, "Oh, I'm going to lift weights to get ready for football next year." Man, you need to be lifting people.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you're a lineman or a linebacker or whatever, your footwork isn't static, right? When you're running into people, it's not like doing a snatch clean or something like that. It's you've got to know, how do I move a person the way I need them to move so the play works. We tell the kids I get to coach too, we talk about that too. So what position did you play in football though?
On offense, I was a wing back. We ran a wing tee.
Okay.
And defense, I was a strong safety, like a monster. And it's a lot different now than it was back then. I mean, we ran like a 5-2, and I was always rolled up, and you had flat coverage and run support. I mean, in schools, everything's spread now, so there's very few 5-2 defenses anymore.
Were you like running when you're in your wing? Was it like run and shoot kind of offense, or?
Kind of. A lot of misdirection. Every play is supposed to look like itself.
Gotcha.
Trap, sweep, waggle, everything. Everybody does the same thing. You got to basically guess where they're going.
Gotcha. So, okay. So you got to your next year, you wrestled year round. Your football career, I assume, is going well too, because you played in college. So I can kind of piece that together. What are some of the things that you accomplished that you're most proud of in your competitive careers?
Yeah, absolutely. In football, I lettered as a sophomore, which was a big deal back then. My senior year, I was the league defensive player of the year. I was all state as a defensive back. I believe I had 92 tackles, which was crazy for a DB. But my first step was forward. I was looking to take people out, and I loved it. But again, I'm short. I'm 5'7", and I was that tall in 8th grade. So I just stopped. So I lived in the weight room, bulked up. Wrestling though, I lettered as a freshman, and I took some lumps. That first year. But it's not where you start, it's where you finish. Believe it or not, I was one match from state as a freshman. I lost the go-to. And then I ended up placing 6th in districts, unfortunately. So I didn't get to be the alternate, but it was a blast. And like I said, I was such a different wrestler from when I started to where I finished. I made the state tournament as the sophomore, junior, and senior. I never got on the podium, unfortunately, which is it's all right. Did my best, but being able to experience the shot for 3 years it was amazing. I had so much fun. And then I left Edgewood with most wins in school history. I had multiple records. I was a tilt machine. I used to get that ball and chain and put people on their back. Although I am very proud to say I own 0 records at the Edgewood Cougars, because my brother came out and took every one of them.
No, nothing like a little brother rivalry there.
Absolutely.
Never asked this before. So describe your wrestling style. In the north, in the northeast and northwest, it's kind of take them down, let them up, unless you're, like St. Ed's or some of these other teams where they're wrestling college style on you. Like it's gonna be a bruiser. But what was your go-to takedown? Obviously, we know you were a turning machine from what you just said, but were you a shooter? Were you like carries or throws or what?
My goal was to get the very first takedown and then just try to score as many points as I could. I was not that good on my feet, but I typically got the first takedown, which was key. And then, on top, I started just turning people, and was
Mitch Clark in them. Just one takedown is all I need, and I'll tech you in the NCAA Division I finals in 1990.
Yeah. And then, if I got on bottom, I was going for a switch every single time. I mean, because I didn't want to be back on my feet, because like I said, I was not good enough on my feet. I was a mat wrestler, and my wrestling style probably would have been better in college had I gone that route. But I played a year at Thomas More College of football, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go play football afterwards. Quickly realized that I was spending way too much money just to play football. I did letter, which was pretty awesome, mostly on special. I played well. I lettered because of my special teams play. I did get to carry the ball once on a fake punt and got a -2-yard loss. So You
That
have
sounds like
more
a coach.
rushing yards than I do. You have more rushing yards than I do in college. Assuming you didn't play college football, of course. Which was
What, I don't
awesome.
look like it.
I'm just asking. I'm saying I have -2 yards in the NCAA, and which makes my wife has more college football yards rushing than I do. But so I went home and went to Miami, one of the branch campuses for Miami, because it was just too expensive going to Thomas More just to play football. But that gave me the opportunity to go right into coaching. And again, my little brother, he's 7 years younger than I am. And I'm going to be at his wrestling tournaments anyway. I mean, I might as well be in the corner. So I went right into coaching, to the year of Pee Wee coaching. I was a junior high coach for 2 years. Then I was a varsity assistant for 4. And that was actually one of the absolute most rewarding things in my life, was coaching my brother, watching him win a Division I district title. It was being the underdog, little old, because we were at that time the second smallest school in D1, and watching him knock out, go through the brackets, beating a kid from St. X and beating a kid from Mulder in the finals, and little old Edgewood. It was pretty awesome. That was one of the coolest things ever. Now, I've been married to my wife for almost 16 years. We started dating in high school. She's definitely, so she lives and breeds wrestling as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, because we started dating when we were 15, so she was at all my tournaments, at all my brother's tournaments. And my brother's senior year, we had my son, Michael Jr., goes by Mac, and I realized so fast that it is really hard to be a parent and coach at the same time, because he was born in October and went right into wrestling season. And my wife's a nurse, so she's working some crazy shifts here and there, and it was so hard. So once my brother graduated, I took a couple years off, and then kid number 2 came, and kid number 2 is way easier than kid number 1 typically, because you already know what you're doing, kind of. And we kind of got a little bit of our lives back, and my wife told me to go get a hobby, and I said, okay, I'm going to go ref football. I missed that feeling of running out in the field on Friday nights. It is something that not many people can, not many people have experienced, and it is just, there's nothing like it. So I signed up. I just Googled it, found out. And unfortunately, there was no class in Butler County that year. So I traveled about 40 minutes away and took the class, and I kept my gear in my truck. And I took any game I could get my hands on. Thankfully, my boss was real cool about it. Hey, I got to leave an hour early today to go travel 45 minutes for a 7th and 8th grade game, because that's all you got. That's basically all you can do that first couple of years, because typically assignments are already done a year in advance. I had my first year was fun doing football. I enjoyed it. Started getting to meet people. I just tried to out hustle everybody. That way people would notice me, and it really worked. I started getting better games throughout the next few years, because I didn't go into officiating football with any mentors at all. A lot of times you recruit via word of mouth, and then you got a buddy that can help you out. I just decided to start for the heck of it. So I finished that first year of football. I said, I might as well do wrestling too. I mean, might as well. So I got my brother, I called my brother up and said, let's do this together. So we took the class together. And now, I've been listening to your shows. I hear everybody talk about the brotherhood, the, whatever moniker you want to give it. Us wrestlers, heck, it's a cult, whatever you want to call it. It's awesome. So I walked into the wrestling officials meeting. I knew half the guys, from years of coaching and years of, just being on the mat. The transition to wrestling was so much easier just based on the brotherhood.
Yeah, I mean, so that was what I was going to ask, and you kind of answered it halfway there, and that was the exact answer I was hoping to hear. But with football, no one took you under the wing, or how were those classes in becoming onboarding for football to become an official? and wrestling, how are those similar or dissimilar? Like compare and contrast those if you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely. Now, again, the
No
reason why
judgment,
it was,
just trying to,
oh no, oh no, it was totally different because, and the big reason is I took my football officiating class in a in Hamilton County, a whole different football officials association. And I had no intention on joining their officials association. So they weren't going to give me the time, and I don't blame them for that. So I had to, again, we didn't have a class for Butler. I'm in the Butler County Football Officials Association. And that year we didn't have a class. So I had to kind of introduce myself. I came to meetings after class at Milford just to try to get my name out there and try to, say, hey, I want to do this, this, help me out, guys. And now wrestling, I took the class with Cincinnati, and it's obviously they knew me from coaching everything, and it was a lot different. And I don't blame my class for football for that, of course. It's just that they weren't invested in me.
Yeah, well, I think another thing different nowadays too, not to like compare, but just to offer it out there is, when I became an official when I was in high school. Life happened. I just became one again, but I did it through Zoom, and we had people from all over Ohio doing it. And so they knew, these people, it makes no sense. They're not going to join. They're down in Columbus. They're not going to join this association. But it was just like, it doesn't matter. We need officials. Like, we all understand what we're trying to do or accomplish here now. So hopefully football is kind of getting that way. Like, it doesn't matter because it's going to help out another crew somewhere. It's kind of funny, the thing that you said there wasn't a class that year. And now I would venture to guess that there probably isn't a season where there isn't a class other than during the season to get more football officials. And like wrestling, in the last 2 weeks, we just welcomed 62 new officials between Wrestle Against Autism and what some of your mentors and friends like Elliot Spence and Walter Starks and those guys did down in your area. Is football offering classes more regularly now? You mentioned you're, recruiting for them.
Correct. On my varsity football crew, my referee and umpire are the instructors for the new officials class. Great. So, of course, by default, and being the current president of the association, I'm working with those guys hand in hand, trying to figure out how to get more guys. And that's absolutely what I told them. I said, hey, we have 29 new officials going through our wrestling officials class after the season. And that's definitely something we're going to look into for this year. We've actually already discussed starting that. We're going to start going to football practices at the end of the year saying, hey, seniors, this is going to be the last time you're running the lights. It doesn't have to be. Sophomores, juniors, you can start doing, you can start doing junior high next year. That's going to be our goal. Our goal is to hit every school in Butler County and try to see if we can get a class. And I think focusing on high school kids is actually a smart move.
I think that's where the majority of our focus needs to come. Obviously it'd be great to see more coaches, even if they're not going to officiate, just to actually know the rules. That would be cool. But then, parents, wrestling moms, like some wrestling moms know more about wrestling than most people in the stands. Like, they're great. They would be great too for officiating, and especially with the growth of women's wrestling. But I'm
gonna interrupt you there. I tell you what, my wife is my biggest critic. She says I don't call stalling enough, and I think I call it too much.
Yeah, well, you as a man, so she must have like a more northern Ohio mentality, because you can ride a little bit more down southern Ohio. Up here, if you're if you're parallel for a second too long, you're getting hit right away. Just my opinion. But again, about who could, how do you target these folks? I think you're right on. The high school athletes, like, you get to meet them during the season. Now, probably not as much during wrestling, because you have a little bit more downtime and you can kind of joke with them if they're at the table or warming up. During a football game, there's not much time to do anything like that. But I think you're right on with getting, high school and maybe college kids too that are finishing their career too. But help me understand, for football, like, are they doing any stuff via Zoom, or is it still like come to this location for X amount of weeks? And
no, we're still doing to the location now, and you can do a lot of the Zoom stuff. with, when you're going over rules and all that. But a big part of football is mechanics and actually doing on the field work. And this is you want to talk about compare and contrast. I compare officiating football to driving a car for the first time. First time you drive a car, it is a whole new world. You don't know what to do. But on the other hand, you've rode in that passenger seat for so many hours. It's just like just officiating football. You've watched a million games. But when you actually go there to officiate football, it is so different. I about got taken out my very first scrimmage because I was just in the wrong position. And it is dangerous. So much more dangerous rather than wrestling. Just learning where to be so you don't get hurt. And the other thing about officiating football is you don't have to play football to be a good football official. Anybody that's a football fan can be a football official, because again, it is so different than compared to wrestling, where wrestling, everybody in the stands is a wrestling official. So they think every coach is a wrestling official. Everybody is scoring that match from the stands. Every coach is scoring that match from his seat. And so all eyes are on the official. And that's why it's really, I would assume it'd be really, really hard to officiate wrestling had you not ever done it before, because how can you explain to somebody what control is if you've never felt it? But, and that's why I really stress for football, anybody could do it, because you have to completely watch a game differently. I don't watch a pro game the same. I count the line before every single play to make sure there's enough people on the line. And I call holding calls because I'm watching the offensive lineman down the field rather than the ball carrier, because it is just totally different.
Well, there's so many more rules in football, and obviously more mechanics too, based on which role you're playing on the squad. And I know we've had guests on that do both sports too, so I'm not trying to sound like I know what I'm talking about. But it's like in football, this is the easiest way I can put it. Like football, if you see the goalpost and you kick the ball and it goes between the two yellow uprights, everyone knows it's either 1 point or 3 points. Like that's easy. In wrestling, everything is it's so confusing because one, you didn't grow up watching it. It's not on TV every Sunday or Saturday. And our rules, some of them, what's out of bounds this year, what's stalling, so it is night and day. You're exactly correct. But the problem is if you've been to one wrestling match, you think you've been to a million and you know everything, and you're way closer in that gym. So it tends to be a little bit more adversarial on the officials. But let me know about how bad do you get chirped on the sidelines by football coaches?
I am a back judge. I am on an island 20 yards from the ball in the middle of the field. I don't hear, it's tough to hear anybody. They can yell all they want, but I can easily ignore them. I am lucky being in the middle of the field. Although I'm on an island, like I said, my duties are the entire width of the field, and I have to beat whoever has the ball to the goal line. So I get a 20-yard head start. And I can still run. But it's not so bad when I'm right in the middle of the field, and coaches can scream. But now this is I don't know how many people actually know this. When you're doing JV, freshman, junior high, you basically get assigned to the game based on your location, where you live, where you work. And we kind of stand in the middle of the field and say, hey, what do you want to do today? I don't know. I did the chains last week. I want to do I'll go be the white. No, I don't want to be the white hat. And we always say, I don't care, whatever you want. And that goes on for 10 minutes until somebody finally says, I want to do something. So in JV games, freshman games, you spend your time on the sideline. And dealing with coaches is always, it's not as bad as wrestling, I'll tell you that for sure. But I enjoy hearing the boos and the screams from the crowd. And that's my favorite part about a football game, because you'll make a play and you make a call and you got one side screaming and one side, booing, and it's a blast.
50% of the people are, 50% in wrestling and football, right? But in football, there's only two teams. So everyone on one side is going to be ticked off or happy. In wrestling, it's only a percentage, but that coach isn't and the competitor isn't. So, Yeah, it's kind of similar. I mean, I can see how you're saying, like, yeah, it's similar there. Um, so let's talk about a little bit more about this last year for you. This, I know, at least for wrestling, I believe it was your first time officiating the state tournament, right, in Ohio?
Actually, no.
No. Okay.
No, this, believe it or not, this is actually my ninth season of officiating
Oh,
wrestling.
yes. All right.
My first state tournament assignment came in 2020. It was in my seventh year. I was overjoyed, and I could not wait to go up to the Schottenstein Center and officiate that tournament until 2020 happened, and I got the infamous phone call that said, "Hey, tournament's canceled as of now."
Yeah, that was
And
a Wednesday, I think, wasn't it? Or a Thursday. Or I think
it
it's
was a Thursday because the
everyone
tournament
was
started
leaving
on Friday.
everyone was leaving for Columbus, and I, heard the
I
story.
was gonna go up. I was gonna go up the night before, have my room, and everything got canceled. And I was heartbroken. Um, I was so looking forward to it. I was really feeling good about where I was at in the season, and it got canceled. I was devastated. I didn't unpack my bag for like 2 months because I just kept on waiting for that call. Like we're gonna, and everybody knew we weren't going to, but I didn't get to do it. Now 2021, I was fortunately assigned the Division II state tournament, and which was, and I don't want to knock it, but it wasn't the shot, and it didn't feel like state, but I was still honored to have the assignment.
That was a weird year, man. That
Yeah.
was my, I always say that was my first year on the floor for media. It wasn't really on the floor though, because everyone is like 2 feet away. But I was at the D3 one, covering it with Zeb Miller from GoHioCast, who's a member of Ohio Matt Media, the team that, we're trying to do this wrestling coverage. And yeah, I mean, the sad thing is a lot of historic things happened that year in Ohio history. And normally we'd all get to witness them because we could all be in the same place. But when you're in 3 different places, that's not the case. And I totally hear what you're saying. I think for the kids' sake, the way that I look at it though is, man, I couldn't imagine having 2 years and not having a state tournament, how brutal that would have been. So from
Oh
the
yeah.
kids, I think the chance to get on the mat there, and obviously the honor for you to live out that honor of being selected, because it's hard to get that assignment. And we've had 3 people on the show now that their first state tournament was, or 3 people that did the state tournament this year. So Denny Ole, who maybe you met, that was one of our latest episodes, and then Tony Smirk too. So tell me about your first. So wait, so you did the high school one first in 21, then you're in the shot this year?
Yeah. That first year I did when I did the D2 tournament in 21, I had sorry, my dog's being a pain in the butt. I was a total mess. I was just an absolute total mess before that tournament. And trying to prepare for this, I was thinking about that tournament. Whoever did the national anthem before that tournament on that first day absolutely just wrecked me. And that's when I always get, emotional when the anthem plays. And I was looking back, I'm like, I can't remember if it was a male that sang it, if it was a female that sang it. I've literally just tried to remove it from my brain because it emotionally wrecked me for the first 20 minutes of that tournament. And like I said, I was a mess. I was so nervous. But after a few matches, I realized, okay, I got this. It's just wrestling. It's just wrestling. I've done big tournaments before. I can do this. Had a great team. And then I worked through that first day. Second day, had the semis, almost called it a defensive pin in the semis, which would have been crazy. Which, again, that was one of the most crazy parts of the tournament. And I don't think anybody knows it, but just like a few people for me. And then I was assigned the 120-pound final that night. And here comes the same person to do the national anthem that opened the tournament. I was a mess again. And I was so happy that I had the third match because it took me 2 matches to compose myself. I went out there, I worked it. It was a 5-3 match, lots of scrambles, spaghetti wrestling. it was so much fun. And then I had the opportunity to assist the next 2 matches. So I went out there on 120 and I stayed out there for 3 matches straight, including my 3rd match was an ultimate tiebreaker. And that was just one of the coolest experiences I ever had. And then I sat down and I couldn't stop yawning the rest of the night because my adrenaline was just toasted. I was just so beat. But it was a blast. And again, I don't want to knock it because it was still state. I still earned that. But again, this past year, I had the state final in football. The very next week, I was week 2 of the wrestling season. So I got in the locker room on Friday and I got an email from the state, and I was assigned this year's state finals as well. And I got to enjoy getting that assignment with, my brothers in wrestling, all the guys in the locker room. So I was thrilled to get that assignment. And I got to work it. Now, the Schottenstein Center, I wrestled there 3 times. I coached there 4 years. I felt so much more comfortable at the Schott this year, never officiating in there before, but I can't even explain it. I felt so much more comfortable officiating at the Schott than I did at Highland Marengo last year.
I'll tell you though, being familiar with an event makes a huge difference, whether you're an official or a competitor. And my dad was a coach for about 25 years up here in Sandusky St. Mary's Central Catholic. And, my first state tournament was in 1994. We're still in Dayton at the Nutter Center. But the coolest thing they used to do is they'd come down on Wednesday night, and then they'd go and tour where they're going to wrestle.
Smart.
And they'd walk around it. They'd walk around the whole floor while they're setting up, walk up where our fans are going to be seated, and just be like, hey, this is where our fans are going to be. This is where you're going to wrestle. This is the tunnel you're going to walk out of. We're going to walk out of it now. So tomorrow wasn't the first time. And it makes a huge difference, to the point of, after 10 or 15 years of that, a couple of dudes in Sandusky, Ohio got together and said, we're going to do this for all the youth, and made the OAC. And that's why
Awesome.
the tunnel was there too. So you're exactly right. At least from my personal lived-in experience, like if you've been in a place and you're going to be under high pressure, it makes more sense to get acclimated. In psychology, I think they call it like state dependent learning, right? So like if you study for your exam in the room you're going to take your exam, you're more likely to do better. So I apply that too. Like if you've been in that place a couple of times, of course you're going to feel a little bit more comfortable. But what I want to know is, so 2021 was what it was. 2022, you're at the big show, you're in the place, you feel comfortable. What was different in such a cool way? Like what made it awesome for you? Did the national anthem hit you as hard? Like, let's hear about your experience.
Well, just to go back to what you just said, again, I missed the state tournament by 1 match as a freshman. We had our 119 pounder, who was my wrestling partner, qualify for the tournament that year. And my wrestling coach said, you're coming with us next week. Yep. And you're going to be his warm-up partner, which again, I was anyway, but you're going to be there because I want you to experience the tunnel. And I, of course, had no idea what he was talking about. But I got to experience the tunnel. I got to walk out of the tunnel and see the lights, which is what everybody talks about. When you walk out, you see the lights. And the next year, I was prepared. And hey, look, it prepared me for the 2022 state wrestling tournament as an official as well. It was great coaching, Coach Bear. Thank you very much. Now, so this year, like I said, I felt comfortable. My teammates were excellent. You get put on a team of officials, you have a team captain. So my teammates were awesome. I left the state tournament as a better official than I came. And a big part of that was my team captain, Dino. But that first day, it just felt like a wrestling tournament. I had some excellent matches. I get back to the locker room, I see 50 text messages from all my friends like, hey man, I saw you doing that one match. I saw you do that other match. It was a blast. I felt great. I felt comfortable. They fed us really well. That was cool too.
I heard that.
Gotta have the food. Yep. Gotta have the food. My team was assigned to the Division I semifinals, which now you get your paperwork a couple weeks before the tournament. And the paperwork is where you see whose team you're on. and what your mat assignments are. Now, again, the only tournament I did, the only state tournament I did was at a high school. This wasn't the shot. So I didn't realize the significance of those mat assignments. So then the word got out where everybody's at. And I started getting text messages, congrats, congrats, congrats. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. And so then Walter, as you know, Walter
Starks.
Yeah, he calls me, he goes, dude, congrats. I'm like, what is everybody congratulating me for? He said, your mat assignment, you're on mat 2 for Saturday night. You got the Division I semifinals. I'm like, sweet. I was like, I didn't know why everybody's congratulating me. And sure enough, the officials, once they get those mat assignments, everybody's looking to see who got what, where's everybody going to be at. And I had the assignment for the D1 semis. I had a blast. That was so much fun. That semifinal round was awesome. I think that was the most electric that the shot was, other than the finals, of course, and probably more electric than at some points in the finals.
Well, I have to imagine there's so much pent up energy from not being able to watch wrestling in what we're so accustomed to, because I think 1999 was the first year we moved to the shot. So like you've got 22 years of like people accustomed to going to this huge arena and seeing wrestling. Like I'll put it out there. Like I would love someone to argue it. Watch this video if you see this and you care enough to argue it. Like our state tournament's up there with the best. I mean, it's one of the best. So I imagine, some of that kind of carried over with that excitement, right? Because we all missed it. Because I don't know about you, but in 2021, I think people were a lot nicer to officials because they were just happy that everyone even got to wrestle.
I don't know. Well, keep in mind that 2021 state tournament, we had more, I forget how many unsportsmanlike conduct penalties we called on coaches at that state tournament. Dick Lowenstein was laughing. He's like, I'm running out of papers here. I'm running out of, and I'm lucky and I appreciate, I guess I really wish I would have talked more about the guys that mentored me through my wrestling career as an official. But Dick is amazing because he's a state rules interpreter and he's our treasurer secretary of our association. So to have the inside track on everything with Dick Lowenstein is excellent.
And I think he just helped out at the officials class. I think he helped facilitate the test. What an asset. Yeah, but
absolutely.
Don't regret that. Let's talk about the people that mentored you. Let's do that now. That's what this show's about.
No, absolutely. But yeah, we got to go back to the tournament too, though, because the anthem got me. So anyway,
all right, I'm writing a note. Got a note.
Yeah, it's the truth. That's what always gets me. It's the worst. Football is the worst too. I stand out there and get all teary-eyed. Again, back to starting as an official in wrestling. I knew everybody, and there was a lot of guys that from Edgewood in our Edgewood wrestling family that were officials. So instantly I knew people, which is so beneficial. Charlie Payne, he was one of my assistant wrestling coaches when I was in high school. He was a district official in our association. So I instantly had guys I could look up to, and not only for, having, Dick as our secretary, which is great. I had, again, Walters helped me out. Tony Stapleton from the Dayton Association. He was, he took me under his wing a little bit, and I've learned a lot from him. But again, it's back to the brotherhood. Everybody, we're all buddies, and I wish people really would see that, because I kind of fell into the trap a little bit as a coach, thinking that, oh man, those refs are out to get us. They got something on us. They don't like us. Man, I'm not good enough to try to, screw a kid out of a takedown or all. I'm just trying to do my best. I heard a quote that I really believe is, as officials, we remember our bad calls more than our good calls. And it is the truth. If I make and not even a bad call, if I make it over it, if I can't remember if I do it, did I do bad? I know I'm kind of going off topic there, but
no,
it's the truth. And I love having the brotherhood. We're all buddies, and it's so much fun. And I hope that some people will see that and say, you know what, it's a good thing to get into.
So I want to talk about the transition from being football officiating ready to wrestling officiating ready. Now, Now I know this year was a little bit different because you went as far as you can go in the postseason. But is there anything that you have to do or that you do to kind of shift gears from football officiating mind brain, to wrestling brain or?
You know, not really in the sense that you once you get out there and blow the whistle in wrestling, I actually feel more comfortable on a wrestling mat than I do a football field because it's where I feel home. On a football field, so much can happen. I mean, the rule book is brutal in football. And I'm more, you desperately need scrimmages in football to get ready for the season, more than getting ready for, the wrestling season. Now, granted, I wouldn't want to do a really, really high stress duel as my first match of the year, but, working a tournament, to be honest, I feel more comfortable on a wrestling mat. And to get ready for football is a little more difficult for me than wrestling.
Okay, so we've talked about it. Now the question is the national anthem. Why does it get you?
Well, I'll tell you what happened at state this year. We had, they had someone sing the national anthem before every round, which was great. And it got me ready. But if anybody hasn't seen the Parade of Champions in wrestling at the Schottenstein Center, you're missing out. It was awesome having the parade. You got the fireworks, you got everybody. And then I believe her name, Mrs. Robinson.
Yes.
She came out to do
30 years, I think, something like that.
Yes. And there comes the emotion because she sang the national anthem when I was in high school. She sang the national anthem when my brother was in high school. I was coaching. And and then I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get myself composed because by God, I got the Division I 120-pound final. So I had to get ready just like the year before, and I had to get ready to go officiate a match because I was up real quick.
Yeah. Well, it's funny I ask because, like I know some people like my dad, my cousin Jared, and myself have rituals when national anthem is going on. Mine's just I freak out and my Apple Watch goes off and says your heart rate is going through the roof, because I'm just thinking about the kids that I get to coach and like all these opportunities for all the kids in the tournament to like put their skills on display. But it just always gets me too. But it's always like, all right, I'm ready to go. Like that's when I start pacing. And you can ask any of the parents, like this dude paces more than the wrestlers. It's just like it's that competitor in you, right? Like, and I don't care, like I don't get to directly compete, but we're gonna go, like, and these kids are gonna get an opportunity to show everything that all their hard work. And when you're a wrestler and you've been there, you've put in the hard work, right? And so it's just like this is a great opportunity. So I was just curious, but that makes a lot of sense, man. That's like, all those thoughts about your family, like your personal, like your mindset when you're in high school. Then shortly after, you weren't that older, when you're coaching your brother who's Mac, right? 7 years younger than you. I mean, that's pretty
No,
cool.
my brother, my son's name is Mac. My brother's name is Nick. But yeah,
your son. I thought, what did you? Okay, my bad. Yeah.
No, it's all good. Yeah, my son's name is Mac. He's 12. Yeah, my brother's name is Nick, okay. And he's a good up and coming football or wrestling official, excuse me, as well. He's going to be. I hopefully he'll be up. One of my dreams is to work a state tournament with my brother. He's a little bit behind in the sense that he was in college when we took the class. So he worked some matches, but he wasn't, I don't want to say he didn't take it seriously, but he was just doing it for fun, Then he got real serious after he got out of college. And then he got a job working shift work. So the last 2 years, he's barely done any. Yeah. And now he's back in a first shift type of job. And so he's going to be back ready to roll next year, which I look forward to because I think he's an excellent young official. And I think it's one of my dreams to do a state tournament with him. It'd be so much fun.
Well, good for him, man. A couple episodes ago, Butch Blankenship went through the same thing. He's been an official for 20 or maybe almost he's a long time, but his job changed. So then he couldn't officiate. And then his job changed again. And now he got back into it and, made those changes, right? Because you learn along the way. So I know that, you're heavily into recruiting football and wrestling. So right now I'm going to ask you for two things before we wrap up here. Like, what's your sales pitch to, a person that what's your pitch to a person you're trying to get to consider officiating football? What's your sales pitch to someone considering officiating wrestling? Let's hear it. Be a salesperson.
Absolutely. Now, football it's different in the sense that, again, I think any football fan can be a good football official. And, I look at the people with kids. I mean, because again, most athletes, they directly think about going into coaching because it's just, you want to give back. But once you start having kids, it's really hard to go to practice. I'm talking practice, not the game. It's so
All right,
hard.
Allen Iverson.
Yeah,
Nice.
right. So, I mean, it's so hard to go. There's so much time involved in coaching, and God bless you guys that do it. But when you have kids, it's so tough. So I tell them, like, you get one meeting a week, and then you pick your schedule. You can work if you only want to work Saturdays doing JV games. That's all you got to do. And then in wrestling, it's similar in the sense that, but in the sense that you can pick your schedule. I was stressed at it because everybody says I don't have enough time. That's the number one excuse. I don't have enough time. One meeting a week, and once you get 4, you don't have to go anymore. And then after that, you pick your schedule. You don't want to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You just want to do Fridays and Saturdays. You can do that. Because again, I just stress that I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. And you can make time. And a good example, I don't do many duels during the week during wrestling season. And that's a big reason. My wife's a nurse, and that's flu season. That's crazy time for her. And also it's give and take. I do a lot of football games during the week. So football season, I got a Monday meeting, and I'm working every Wednesday, most Thursdays, every Friday, every Saturday. And, it's a bit of give and take. So wrestling season, I might do a duel during the week, but then I'm working every Friday and every Saturday for sure. And I try to get the best quality matches I can get, because I'm not doing so many duels because I'm a dad too. And that's the biggest benefit to officiating is, you don't got to practice.
Well, I mean, I think one of the biggest things maybe to take away for the 62 new officials in the state of Ohio, hopefully they're listening, because I know Walter. First of all, I got to give a shout out to Walter. He's been a huge advocate of the show and just really actually doing things the right way to show officials are human and that we can have fun. We're like kids too at this stuff. We love it, but I think the biggest thing to take away there is like, look, people that are officials now, there's an opportunity. Because if you don't have kids and you're younger and you just became one, like there's a lot of duels that other people don't want to touch or can't touch because of their family life and commitments, right? So there's opportunities there to get varsity matches. You might not get Iron Man your first year, you might not get some of these things, but you can get these great things. But first you got to do a little time, right? Doing your bitty junior high kind of stuff, work up. Which is something that I think that's something we got to look at. I would assume on the football side, but the wrestling side too, is one of the things we know about younger people. I'm in sales, so like a lot of the marketing information that I use is younger people aren't as willing to wait a while for that payoff. They want to achieve things and see progress.
Instant gratification.
Yeah, but I mean, that's something, but I mean, they understand it's a process. But I mean, people maybe from, obviously the generation before me, the boomers, and I don't even know what I am. Sometimes I'm Gen X, Gen Y, depends on whose dates you're using. But we kind of understood, hey, you got to put in the time and get there. So that's one of my other things, that one of my concerns, I think, for officials is if we're getting these younger folks to understand that state tournament isn't going to come right away. But if you work as hard as Michael did, it can come a lot faster, right?
Absolutely. And go back to Walter, he became our assigner for the area. And that helped out so much, having somebody within the organization that's able to put people with other people. Therefore, I mean, when I was first started, I was doing, he would team me up with a veteran, and the veteran would do the JV match. And then he would assist me doing the varsity match. And then that worked out so much. That helped out so much more.
Like,
oh yeah,
I think the people that get it understand that, right? And that kind of, I'm going to call that mentorship or leadership or servant leadership even more, like putting someone before you, the wants and needs of someone before you. That's servant leadership.
Yes, sir.
Like we need that because we need these newer officials to come because we're going to need them at some point to say, hey, life just happened. Kid's got a baseball game or not. That's not a good
Yeah.
term.
I
Got
get
a
it.
hockey match, or,
Yeah.
or whatever. I can't officiate. Can you step up to the plate? Right. So
Yeah, the assigner helping out, that's the way we do it in Cincinnati, and that's helped out so much. With Walter being the assigner, he can match up those younger guys with the veteran guys that are going to help them get that much further. Now, when I first started officiating wrestling, we didn't have an assigner, so it was all relationship based. So therefore, if you wanted those matches, you had to know somebody, and that's not conducive to working with mentorship and helping people.
not conducive
Now,
to growth whatsoever. Like they say, it's not what you know, who you know. That shouldn't be the case in officiating. It should be, it's what you know, and your work on the mat, your field of work should speak for itself. And then you get assigned the state tournament, first districts and state tournament, that sort of thing.
yeah.
So I'm glad that that's solved. And Walter is obviously a very selfless leader. So it's cool to see that what he's doing. I'm hoping that some other officials see that and start like sharing. You're already there.
Yeah.
Like you're there for X amount of hours. The pay's fixed. Like, why not take some videos, go on Facebook Live, do some other stuff, and maybe show people, hey, I'm a human being, and you're one too. So why don't you officiate with me? So that's I'm off the soapbox right now. Michael, thank you so much for tuning in. This is awesome. This is the most I've talked about two sports in an episode, and I've learned a lot. I have a feeling this won't be the last time, and it sounds like I might need to speak with your brother too about his path. But thank you for your time. Stay on real quick. Just want to talk with you and appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.